This game really is something, isn't it? It's honestly the one game that's fascinated me ever since it was announced back in August of 2020. Since then, it's been a really bumpy ride until it would eventually release to the public only a few days ago on the 2nd of February. So today I'm sitting down and talking about how the game turned out the way it is, now that it's released, and even talking about my opinions on the game since I played through the whole thing and finished it on release day. To start this video, let's talk about... So before I get into the announcement itself and how it was received, a Suicide Squad game was in development ever since 2012, and even had a little teaser to the Suicide Squad in Arkham Origins with Deathstroke being asked by Amanda Waller to join Task Force X. Not much word came around until after Arkham Knight, where people were speculating that WB Montreal, the people that were responsible for Arkham Origins, were going to create the Suicide Squad game. But then we heard that WB Montreal's version of the game would be cancelled in December of 2016. All of a sudden, 4 years later, this game got announced of August of 2020, and people were kind of disappointed since it was rumored that Rocksteady was going to make a Superman game. The trailer came out on the 22nd of the same month on DC Fandom, with a release date of 2022, and people seemed kind of excited for the game since it was Rocksteady after all, and their 3 Arkham games are honestly the 3 best superhero games ever. But 2022 came around, and on March 23rd, it was announced that the game was delayed back to 2023. I don't think too many people batted an eye to this since COVID was really rough to deal with throughout 2020 and 2021. So not too many people really cared about this delay and they understood it. See, I mentioned this delay because it isn't the first one. It eventually got delayed again after being announced to release on May 26th of 2023, back to the 2nd of February of this year. But during the time of the delays, we started to hear more and more about the game, and I think we should talk about that. As I mentioned before, things started to come out about the game as it was being delayed time and time again. These delays were already getting people worried about the game's quality, but the main thing that really broke the camel's back was hearing that this game would have a battle pass and that it required an internet connection at all times. This reasonably pissed off a lot of people since at this point so many other games had already done it. But the difference is that most of those games that had those features were usually free, not a full price game like this one. During the delays, the 2 co-creators of Rocksteady ended up leaving in 2022, which ended up making people worried about the quality of the game as well since the co-creators left the studio mid-development of this game. With the last delay that happened, the developers said that they were delaying it because they were trying to improve the game, but I don't think that's the case. But before the game was released, the whole story was leaked a few months before it came out. Speaking about the game's release, it ended up releasing on the 2nd of February, and let's talk about... Oh boy, I really have a lot to say about the game, but before I do, there was one thing I didn't realize about this game until buying it for this video. You could get early access to this game on the 29th of January if you pre-ordered the digital deluxe version. I'm glad I didn't spend an extra $50 just for that. So the early access started, and the main opinion about the game was that it was either absolutely terrible or just extremely average. But what do I think about the game? It's honestly such a mixed bag. There are quite a few things that I absolutely hate about it, some things that are alright, and surprisingly some things I actually like about the game. Let's start off with the positives and talk about the things that I actually like. I really like the design of Metropolis. It's completely different to how Gotham looks, and I think it works for what it is. I will say though, I feel like it could be a bit more saturated, but it looks quite good during the day. Speaking about the designs, the character designs are actually really good, besides from the Flash. That man just looks weird, but everyone else actually has a good design. Another positive I have is that the combat system is actually really nice on its own. There are things that tie into that I really don't like, but I'll get into that afterwards. But one positive I have for the negative that I'll get into later is that the first Batman encounter is actually really cool since it's a change of pace for the gameplay, and it's the only real segment of the game that feels different and fresh. Even the mission in the Batcave before you fight Batman is quite cool and a nice callback to Arkham Knight and even Arkham Asylum. Another positive I have is the end credits scene that pays its respects to Kevin Conroy. I really like it, but I honestly still can't believe that he's gone. That's pretty much as far as my positives go. There's things that are alright about the game, such as traversing Metropolis. It's fun at first and honestly gets quite boring having to go back and forth across the map constantly, even though I actually like the different ways that the characters move. My favourite was Captain Boomerang, not because I'm an Aussie myself, it's because his movement was actually quite fun and fast paced. I wish there was a fast travel system since you don't really feel that immersed in the world of the game when traversing it like in the Arkham games, which is a shame. The story itself for what it ended up being is actually alright. It really falls apart at the end and becomes very sloppy, but I didn't mind the story overall. There is one bit I absolutely hate that ended up being leaked before the game was released, even before early access, but I'll talk about that after. The humor's alright too, not my cup of tea, but the game did manage to get a chuckle out of me a couple of times, and it was more than what I was expecting. Last thing that's alright is how the game looks graphically. It honestly doesn't really look better than Arkham Knight, which makes me wonder what Rocksteady were up to in the past 9 years. If you ask me, Arkham Knight looks heaps better than this game because the atmosphere and the aesthetic of that game is so strong, but this game looks alright. Honestly, was expecting a bit more, but the main noticeable thing that was improved here is the face animations. They're a lot smoother and more human-like in this game. But you know what? Enough of the blabber about the good and decent things. I really want to talk about the things I hate about this game. The thing that pissed me off the most is the amount of cutscenes. Holy shit, in the first 2 hours of this game, it feels like you only play for 10 minutes and sit through almost 2 hours of cutscenes. It's that bad. I played through the first 2 hours of the game on stream, and you can see on my face that I was bored shitless. It'd be a bit more acceptable if the stories and characters were really good, but they aren't. The characters are alright, and I really just don't like Tara Strong as Harley Quinn. Never have. But playing the game, I would sit there bored out of my fucking mind with the cutscenes, and sure, I could skip them, but if you were to skip all the cutscenes, you'd miss so much of the story that you wouldn't know what's going on. I wish that more of the story would unfold as you're actually playing the game, like the other Arkham games. It becomes extremely annoying at moments, especially when Wonder Woman's fighting Superman. You see the whole fight in cutscenes as the Suicide Squad just do nothing, but in between the half an hour of cutscenes, we do another thing that I hate about this game. That thing is the repetitiveness of the game. Every mission is just shooting Brainiac's alien monsters, or you're escorting a truck as you're doing that too, or you're destroying towers while you're shooting them too. That's the whole game, besides the boss fights. Oh wait, even the boss fights are repetitive. Every mission in the game basically being the same 2 or 3 different things the whole time. You would think that they would really step it up and bring some awesome boss fights against the Justice League and Brainiac. But nope. All you do in every boss fight is fight more of Brainiac's aliens as you dodge the boss's moves and counter them. That's literally it, and they don't even last 5 minutes. They're over basically as you start them. There are 2 boss fights that stand out as being the worst, and those 2 for me would have to be Batman's and Brainiac's. Batman's is really fucking cool on paper. We have to fight a fear toxin version of Batman, but all you do is shoot and counter Batman as you jump over his attacks. The worst part is that it literally lasts 3 minutes, and when it's over, you're just thinking, that's it? It's such a disappointment, since the idea for a boss fight should have been a slam dunk, but nope, it's the worst boss fight in the game. Well, Brainiac is probably just as bad, just because his boss fight is the fucking same as the Flash's. Brainiac transforms himself into a version of the Flash as you fight him and beat him the exact same way you do with the Flash. It's lame. Another thing that's lame is the whole multiverse stuff. Did this game really need a multiverse story? No, but the devs think so since they can sell DLC of other universes and add in whatever characters they want. It's fine and accepted that most games will have DLC, but the way this game does it just feels so lazy and shoehorned in. Also, the last thing I have to mention is that they really did Arkham Batman dirty. Man just gets shot in the head by Harley Quinn, and it's so disappointing since we had 3 games of this version of Batman. So, with the game finally being released and people end up playing it, the main opinion is that most people don't like it, or they hate it, and I see why. There are still things to like about this game, but it really just fumbles the bag with making a shooter in the Arkhamverse as you have to kill the Justice League. I would have completely excused most of the negatives if the gameplay was really good and fun like the Arkham games. It's just extremely disappointing coming from the studio that made 3 absolutely amazing Batman games. It was really a sign that this game was doomed after it was delayed more than once, as well as all the news coming in about the game. Hearing about the live service, the battle pass, and all the story leaks were massive red flags. I really don't know why we needed a Suicide Squad game when we could have just had a game about the Justice League instead. But yeah, what I would have liked to see more than this is Batman having to save the Justice League from Brainiac's mind control with the help of the Suicide Squad. Then after saving the Justice League, they have to take down the Suicide Squad and then Brainiac. Definitely isn't the best game idea, but it's better than what we got. Anywho, have you guys played the game yet? If so, let me know what you thought about it down below in the comments section. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing. Lastly, make sure to check out my Patreon and YouTube memberships, links in the description. And anyways, speaking about that, let's get into the shoutouts. Alright, massive shout out to Ash Crimson for supporting my channel licensed tier. Massive thanks to Fatima, Victoria Huntley, and SamHam1994 for supporting my Big Boss tier. If you want to find out how you can get your name at the end of my videos, please make sure to click the little Patreon logo on the screen at the moment, or click the little join button next to the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. Anyways, I'll see you on the next one.